Yesterday evening, in response to growing concerns about the spread of coronavirus, Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced that as of midnight last night, the UK would be entering a period of lockdown that would run for at least 3 weeks. But what does this mean for us photographers? How can we make the most out of this bad situation? In this video, I'm going to share 7 ways that I'm going to keep myself busy during the coronavirus crisis. Before we start, what do you think of the baseball cap? The problem is that obviously all of the hairdressers around here have now closed. I was due to have my haircut on Thursday, which means by the end of these 3 weeks, I'm going to look a little bit like a Yeti. And so if you don't like it, let me know, and we'll see if we can't sort something else out. Right, let's get on with it, shall we? What we're actually trying to do is to turn a bad situation to our advantage. And the first thing that we can do is actually to learn some new skills. So personally, I'm not the best at post-processing. I'm okay at Lightroom, but I really need to develop my Photoshop skills. So I'm going to spend a bit of time learning some techniques like the Autumn effect and luminosity masking. Now there are a ton of videos on YouTube about these topics, and so I'll spend a bit of time watching those and then practicing those on some of the images that I've already taken. And that means that when I do eventually get back outside and start taking photographs again, when it comes to post-processing, hopefully I'll be able to do a better job. And that means that the end result is ultimately going to be better. And one of the things that we can do as photographers is we can use our photography to record our lives. These are completely unprecedented times. No one's ever been through this before. And so we can use our photography to document what life is like living in lockdown and living with coronavirus. And so that's what I'm going to do. Each day I'm going to try and capture an image that shows what I've been doing to use this time productively and to make the most out of a bad situation. And I'll post that up onto Twitter using the hashtag #CoronaLockdown. But we can also use our photography to bring awareness to the problem. So I had an email in from Matt at Shuttout, and he was explaining what the guys are doing there to get behind the Google Do the 5 campaign. And this is all about spreading awareness of the 5 things that we can do to stop the spread of the virus. It's all about flattening the curve. And so what you can do is you can create images that are designed to spread that message and post them up onto social media. Again, probably Twitter's a good place to do it. And use the hashtag #DoThe5 and flatten the curve. If we're going to have all this time stuck indoors, then one of the things that we can do is we could start a photography blog. Now, I already write a weekly blog, and it's about my experiences of transitioning from an amateur photographer to a full-time professional. I publish that on a weekly basis, and it takes the form of a diary, and I basically share with people exactly what I've been doing and what's been going on behind the scenes, how things are going, how I'm feeling, successes I've had, failures that I've had, problems that I've had. And I'm simply going to transition that into being what it's like to live in lockdown and live with the coronavirus, and how that's impacting me and how that's already impacted my business. But if you're interested in starting a photography blog, you can write about almost anything. You could write about some of your favorite techniques. What about a blog article that shares the gear that you use and why you use it? And also, you could also just write a blog that's about your last photo trip. So you could write some sort of photo essay sharing the images that you took. Now, I use WordPress for my website and my blog, but you don't need to use something as complicated as that. If you just want a nice, simple platform that's good for sharing images with text and multiple images in a single post, then have a look at Tumblr. That's really good for kind of these photo essays, these photo stories where you share a number of images around a central theme and some text kind of explaining, caption the images and explain what they're about and that sort of thing. So have a look at that. And if you do do that, then you can share those with other people via other forms of social media like Facebook or Twitter. So if we are going to be spending a huge amount of time stuck indoors over the next few weeks, how about using some of that time to review our images? Self-awareness is so important for our development as photographers. Understanding what we're good at and what we're bad at is really, really important if we're ever going to improve and start to produce the quality of work that we want to. So for me personally, what I do is I will take my 10 best images or favourite images, since I went full-time at the end of August. And I will sit down, and for each of those images I will write down 3 things that I like about those images, and then I will write 1 thing that I don't like, and then I will look across those 10 images and I will see if there are any common themes. And in the past, this has helped me to improve my photography. So one of the things that I was able to identify when I did this the last time was that I didn't use an awful lot of foreground interest, and therefore a lot of my images were quite two-dimensional and they lacked depth. So that's what I was able to do, and more recently I've started to shoot more with my wide-angle lens and use foreground interest more often. But it is really, really important that we also write down 3 good things about each image. If we only focus on the negatives, the bad things about the image, that's going to have a really negative impact on how we feel about our own photography. And of course, we're in a position where we can't get out to correct any mistakes that we've made. So it is really important for us to have that positive spin on some of our images when we're going through this process. Now, a few months ago, I had a new picture shelf put in my office. Obviously I didn't do it myself, because when it comes to DIY I am practically useless. And on that shelf I've got these 3 frames. These are old frames that I've had for some time and they're empty. And so what I thought I would do is, once I've finished my image review, I would pick my 3 favourites and get them printed up and then frame them up. Now that was a great idea. And literally, since I started recording this video, I've had an email in from my printers saying that they're obviously shutting down and they're not going to be able to service any orders, which is a bit of a problem because I don't have my own printer. So what I will do is, once I've picked those 3 images, I will send them off and place my order. And so when the print lab starts back up again, they'll come through and I can frame them up. But if you are like my good friend Julian Baird and you're mad keen on printing and you've got a bit of time, why not print up a few of your other images and frame them up and actually use them. So this is something that I'm really bad at. If you look behind me, you'll notice that the walls in my office are completely blank. I don't have any of my own pictures up. Now there's a reason for that. I like to try and keep a plainish background for recording, but there's no reason why I don't have images above my computer here. And so that's something that I'm going to try and sort out during this period of lockdown. So speaking about Jules, as we just were, yesterday I watched a video in which he took the images that he captured in Sky and created a photo book. And that's inspired me to do exactly the same thing. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to look back at my back catalogue and I'm going to create a photo book that tells the story of my photography from the point at which I created my YouTube channel all the way through to the point at which I left my old job and went full-time as a landscape photographer. Now at the moment I'm also writing a talk for camera clubs about my journey from amateur to professional, and obviously the YouTube channel is a big part of that story. And so what I want to do is use some of that material to put into the book, and I will try and write some small pieces about my experiences and how it felt, important milestones, like hitting 100 subscribers, hitting 1,000 subscribers, that sort of thing. Some stories about the people that I've met and the characters that I've met along the way and the friends that I've made. And then I think what I'll do is I'll take that book and I will probably make it available for sale on my website or even on Blurb's own platform. So Blurb was the company that Jules used to make his photo book, and probably the company that I will use as well. Now it probably will be quite expensive because these things are never that cheap, and for God's sake, don't actually buy one. But I do think it would be quite nice for me to be able to say that I do have a book about my photography available for purchase on my website. And it'll be a bit like the prints that I have. You know, I've got prints available to buy on my website and I haven't sold one of them for a couple of weeks. Now, obviously, the biggest impact that coronavirus has had on me personally is it's completely cocked up all of my plans for spring. This week I was supposed to be going down to Cornwall. I was running a workshop with Tom Peters in Bude at the weekend, and I was going to stay with my mum in Boscastle. And also while I was down there, I was going to hang around with Jules for a bit. I haven't seen Jules since October last year. So I was really looking forward to that. But obviously, with the virus and the problems that we've got, I can't travel, can't leave the house. So I've had to cancel all of that. Now, this virus isn't going to last forever. we will eventually be able to get back and hopefully back to normal. And so one of the things that I'm going to do over the next few weeks is to actually plan my next trip down to Cornwall. So I want to come up with some locations that I want to shoot that I've never shot before. I want to make sure that there is time for me and Tom to sort that workshop out and get that going. I want to make sure that there's time for me and Jules to get together. Also, I had another friend called Martin who was supposed to be coming up, and we were supposed to be shooting the Haweswater Reservoir together this morning. But obviously he's not allowed to travel with everything that's going on. So he's had to stay down in Devon, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to go and hang out with him. So that's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm going to plan a little bit of a photo trip down to Cornwall. Now, whenever I do a plan for a photo trip, generally I like to come up with some idea of some kind of mini project, which consists of a few sort of associated locations that I can go and shoot, and I can put together some form of small project about my trip. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and do some research about locations and see if I can't make the time to catch up with my mates while I'm down there. So there you go. Those are the 7 things that I'm going to try and do to get me through this period of lockdown and turn what is a pretty bad situation into a positive. I hope that you all stay safe and well, and that you do adhere to the guidelines that have been laid out by the government. Now, in order to make this process a little bit easier for all of us, what I'm going to try and do is continue to produce videos at least twice a week. Now, inevitably, I'm going to run out of ideas. So if you do have any ideas for videos that you'd like to see, leave a comment below and I'll see what I can do.